We visit a tribe rich in heritage and culture. Travel to one of Africa's largest markets.
I love the variety.
And take you through winding rapids. And of course, that's all coming right up on Zurura. Find your adventure.
Ambaye amevaa hijabu huheshimiwa na huepuka vitimbi ambavyo wanafanyiwa wanawake wasiokuwa na stara.
Pia hakuna awezaye kumkabili kwa maneno ambayo kwamba ni machafu labda au maudhi, kwani anafahamu wazi kwamba mwanamke huyo ameshikamana na dini yake na vile vile anaheshimu utu wake.
Oh Muhammad, peace and blessings on you every day. Alayka sallallahu, oh Muhammad.
Yet another exciting edition of Cover Girl Looks with me, Christine Korea. In today's edition, we're taking ordinary women and transforming them into cover girl looks. My team and I selected different women from different walks of life, different age groups, and different body shapes. We had women in their 20s, in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. For Jervis, this goes out to all the pregnant women out there. What do you think about being pregnant and glam at the same time?
My name is Jervis. I'm here for a makeover. I want to see what Christine can do with me. I'm very pregnant and I can't work on myself so well, so I want to see the best that I can look right now.
Straight from college is Jane, and she's ready to join the career world. After talking to her, I realized that she's not ready to go into that whole professional look just yet.
Hi, my name is Jane Irungo. I came to see Christine because I need a makeover. I need to bring sexy back.
Uliniona?
Ukiusa? Abana.
Thank you very much. Sina swali lingine. You can get out, please.
Mimi na hata hatujuani. Ninaingilia wapi?
Kusema kweli mheshimiwa. Huyo mimi simjui hata nilimwonea tu police station. I don't know her. Kuna mahali uliniachia mtoto wewe? Hapana. Thank you very much. Unaleta kielele hapa ya nini?
Si wewe uko na wivu na baby face.
Exactly. Kila mtu ananiita baby face. Wewe ndio unaniambia namna gani?
Mimi sina competition na mtu.
To get control your thinking as your skiza tune, dial *811 *961 #.
Did you know that you have complete control over everything that surrounds you? Yes, fully control over all that comes out of the seas, the earth, and the universe. That control is your thinking. Good thoughts bear good fruits, but bad thoughts will always bear bad fruits. Control your thinking.
To get control your thinking as your skiza tune, dial *811 *961 #. *811 *961 #.
Corporate Kenya is littered with a number of companies that were flourishing at some point, and then because of mismanagement, of lack of succession planning, they finally went under. Good morning and thank you very much indeed for joining us. The conversation this morning revolves around restructuring of business as well as succession planning. And the question is, do you have a plan in the case of anything in your business on who is likely to take over? That is the conversation we want to have this morning. It's going to be a wholesome discussion because, as we say, failing to plan in business is planning to fail your business, because there is absolutely no point for you to work so hard, burn the midnight oil, and of course, sweat to start a business, and ultimately it collapses once you are or once you exit, or once you're normal. And so that is why we want to elevate this conversation and ask yourself, do you have a succession plan in your business? And in case your business is not going or headed in the right direction, there is a component that we call, in business, that we call restructuring of the business, reorienting your business, redirecting your business into a profitable venture. This is BizCheck. My name is O'Brien Kimani. This is why you have this kind of conversations. And of course, we are live from Broadcasting House at O'Brien Kimani is my name. At KBC Channel 1 is my Twitter handle, or our Twitter handle. Keep the conversation going. And remember, we have our reporters on the ground tracking what exactly makes news in your county. Stay right here, for this is a conversation coming up next. Very well. I mean, you have had this conversation, probably maybe in the past, of a number of companies or what you'd call corporate giants in Kenya, not just in Kenya, but around the world. But in Kenya, we have a number of cases, and we are talking about companies like Nakumatt, a company that was turning or had a turnover of more than 60 billion shillings 5 years ago. We all know the story of Nakumatt. And this is just one typical case how lack of succession planning can fail a business. And so there you are with your plan of how to move your company from point A to point B. But the question is this: even if you plan to move your company from this level to the next level, do you have a succession plan well written down and ready for execution? That is the question. Because you can start a business. Oh it's very easy. But the question is how do you ensure your business endures for many years to come? And we have a number of companies in the world that have lived for generations. I'm not going to mention names because you know them. And so this is a conversation that we want to have. And Stephen Kangede is a business restructuring expert. He is joining us this morning, and he's also the managing director of LILAC. He's joining us to help us put dots to where they ought to be in a bid to ensure that you get it right when it comes to succession planning as well as restructuring your business. Thank you very much indeed, Stephen, for finding time to be with us this morning. Help us understand, first of all, why is it important for you to have a well-outlined succession plan in your business?
Okay, thank you very much, O'Brien, for having me here. It's a good topic you're discussing today. Succession planning is a very important factor and a very important aspect in any business. As long as you want to be in existence for many years, you have to have a plan. Succession planning is one of the plans that is such a broad plan because it has two aspects in succession planning. We can succeed a running company, as in by change of directorship, change of leaders, and change of. But our topic today, I would like us to concentrate on succession planning for family businesses or for privately owned businesses, where once the initiator or the founder dies, the business is left, and in most cases it fails. So that is a topic you are going to be handling today. Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you talk to a lot of people or to a lot of businesses, and you ask them, what succession plan has you put in place? A lot of people think about a time when they'll die, or they think, am I going to die soon? Okay, is that the case? Do you have to be very old for you to have a succession plan for your business?
Succession plan is actually a plan for the future. It is not a plan for you to die. It is not preparing you for death. But in any case, all of us have to die. So it goes hand in hand with our lives. When you are born, you have to die. But basically, the importance of succession planning is because when the founder of the company initiates the company, they have a vision, a long-term vision. Now, succession planning is just a facilitation of accomplishing the long-term vision. When you plan long-term. You plan for maybe 100 years or so. Very few people live for 100 years. So succession plan is a plan that will enable even the generations to come and inherit the business and to move to higher heights. Mm-hmm. So it is very important to have them. Not necessarily because you are dying, mm-hmm. but because you want continuity and you want the business to thrive in future. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At what point do you start thinking about succession planning?
Actually, you start thinking about succession planning. The very fact that you are doing your business plan is when you start focusing on the future. Succession planning is just a long-term focus of the future. When you start your business, when the business starts having some good grounds, business makes money, doing good business, you start now thinking of, when you start in a business, you just think of the short-term goals to start with. But as you grow, you go expanding the goals to long-term goals. Usually in the mid-40s, one should be thinking of doing a succession plan. Yeah, not necessarily when you're in 60s or 70s. It is preparation of the people to inherit, preparation of the people to take over mm-hmm. the business. Not necessarily when you're on your deathbed. It should be when you're still energetic and when you're still working. That is where you should be focusing on your siblings, your young children, how they are going to survive in future. But it's unfortunate that most of the companies in Kenya don't go beyond the first generation. When the owners go, they die with the ideas, they die with the business. The business just follows them. Yeah, so that is the importance of a succession plan. A succession plan being a long-term plan, it stipulates that in case this happens, this should be done. In case this happens, this should be done. Among the components, important components of this planning is the question of deciding who to take over. If the founder is not there, who should take over? The other important question is how are we going to run this company when the founder is not there without bias? Because family businesses are fond of bias. That this founder preferred this person, though the person is not competent to run the company, but they prefer this. And then another important factor is to check at whether the company's values are going to be retained and whether the person to succeed is going to drive it to higher heights. Basically, those are the underlying factors that one should think even when preparing the succession plan.
And you brought about a very interesting concept here because, look, we're in Africa whereby the family unit is a very well-defined unit, and it is assumed that, for example, if you are running a family business, if it is a question of the wife, the husband will take over in case of anything. Or it's a question, if it is a question of the husband, exiting the company, it is expected that the wife will take over or the children will take over. But does it have to be that case?
It doesn't have to be that case because at times you evaluate, you do some internal checks. We do what we call a SWOT analysis. The strengths of the dependents, in this case, the weaknesses, the threats, and the opportunities. Once you establish that during in your circles, there's no one who is competent enough to handle this challenge, you can think of sourcing from elsewhere. You can even do a listing of the company privately so that it can thrive, it can be run professionally. The mistake
but how do you convince your next of kin that, look here, I've done a SWOT analysis of this business and the employees and the stakeholders, and I have come to the conclusion that we do not have the talent yet to spearhead this company to the next level. And so I have to source from outside. How, first of all, do you have that kind of a conversation with your spouse or with your children?
Actually, one of the challenges in the African business setup is that the man is always right. But when the man goes, the lady takes over. Now, convincing these people, I'll advocate for a culture of talking. You discuss business as a family. Not these things of biashara ni ya mzee, the man just talks, and that's it. We should encourage dialogue within the family. Dialogue about the future of the family, dialogue about the business, and when everybody is involved, even themselves, they can do their individual SWOT analysis, and they see that they're not good enough. Like, for instance, if you may be in the industry of pharmaceuticals, maybe a hospital, and no one is trained on that line, it becomes a challenge, and it's easier for you to accept. But, men are greedy. Men and women are greedy. So at times it poses some challenges, because when you tell someone that I'm going to leave this to a stranger to run on my behalf, it becomes a challenge.
And I don't think it's a question of, men and women, or women, being greedy. It's a question of, I have been with you along this journey, of starting this company, and probably maybe we started together, and we went through a lot of hustling. We went through a lot of pain. This is a business that we have raised from scratch through our blood, sweat, and tears. And when the company is 10, 20 years old, you all of a sudden you think that I'm not fit enough to take over the reins of leadership in this company. Don't you think that is something that can bring about a conflict?
It brings conflict a lot during family meetings and in businesses, which, the problem that any family that has a problem has a direct impact on the business. If they have a business family, a family business, problems in the family have a direct impact on the business. It is true. It brings a lot of feeling of dishonesty or something. You feel that I'm not wanted, but through dialogue, people come to a consensus. You have to agree that in order for you to be there in future, at times you go for compromise. You go for compromise decisions. You say it is true. I might not be the right person for this because of A, B, C, and D, because some of the areas are so technical. And now, for instance, handling a big company and you have no financial background, you have no business background, all you knew was to support the husband, assuming the husband was the proprietor, telling him that you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Just giving moral support. Moral support will not run a company. What will run a company is the technical know-how, the skills, and the motivation. If you don't have those ones, even if you are given the business, I'm sorry.
But how do you start that kind of a conversation when you bear in mind that when you were starting this company, the two of you, probably maybe no one had any business management skills. I mean, this is a business that you saw an opportunity, and in the process you thought, hey, this is a place where we can make an extra coin, and you ventured into it, be it poultry farming, be it dairy farming, be it a transport business. And then you've got into a point whereby now you feel that for me to be part of leadership, I mean, I must have some management skills. So how do you take your family to that kind of a discussion without leaving anyone behind, of course, creating legal conflicts?
Actually, it's a big challenge for most businesses, but in most cases, we have some instances of where people do sit down, they talk as a family, and their businesses thrive. We have the Asian communities. Most of them, as you can see, they work as a family. The Muslim community, the Somali community, they also work as a family. They go there, they work as a... You nurture your dependents from right when they are young, and then they grow with the businesses, so they know the values of the businesses. I was given an instance whereby maybe the children are adults and they're in different areas, not necessarily in that business. It becomes so strange for them, so new for them. But when you grow them together, when you grow the business together with the children, and you actually incorporate them inside, they become part of the business. They get a better understanding. In that case, mostly you give them the power to run it. But where maybe the children are minors or anything, you look for professionals to run the business for them on their behalf until they attain a certain age. Although still, even that one brings some trust issues if the other spouse is still there. Yeah, but life is a matter of compromise.
Let's talk about, scenarios here and of course cite cases that are in the public domain. And we know of this retail chain just the other day. It was thriving. It had more than 60 outlets, in this country. Actually, in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda.
It was the leading. And
then when the owner died, he had appointed one of his children to be the heir to take over the mantle of this business. And when the other siblings discovered this was the case, conflict started. Some of them moved to court, opposing the decision by the old man. And as we speak now, the company is facing liquidation, which is the worst step for any business. Of course, we'll be coming to restructuring, but so how do you ensure that you carry everybody on board and there is consensus that we as a family, we have agreed that our family business, in case of the leader, kicking the bucket or exiting the business, this is a person who is supposed to take over?
Actually, it's a very unfortunate thing that most businesses thrive in. When the owner dies, the business also collapses. Actually, there are some fundamental issues that most family business don't take into account, like management of finances. when most of them, they think that because the company belongs to the family, all the finances are families and no one should be answerable. If you look at most of these companies that are going under today, there are key factors. One of them is cash flow management. They don't know how to manage their cash flow. Either they divert for their personal use or they divert to diversify at the expense of the core of the business. For instance, the example you've given us of some retail chains, maybe they divert funds to other investments. Maybe they take funds because there is this notion, African notion, that this is family money, not my money. So the more I acquire some for myself, the better for me. Then they lack leadership skills. Because it's a leader who will know that I have a challenge in this. I need to go to a college. I advance in this and this course so that I can run this company better. But now, when you have that notion that I know it all, it becomes a challenge because you can't allow ideas from outside. Then trust is also another big issue in these retail chains. Not retail chains, in all companies across the board. Trust is also a very big challenge. Then lack of clear vision. Once the proprietor of this company dies, they lack a sitting whereby they come and say that our future, we set our future to be like this. When the owner is not there, they lack direction, future direction. When they lack future direction, it means that they just go sell, buy, that's it. Not knowing where you are going. It's like telling a blind person to go to KICC today. They won't know. They'll hit a lot of, and they might not even get there. They might be knocked by a car. So when the owner dies and the company has not been prepared well, that is the kind of situation they are in.
I mean, let me ask you this. As a family, this is a family that is, this is a business owned by maybe a wife and a husband, or a husband and a wife, whatever you look at it. You have your kids, and it is the wishes of every parent that, for their children to pursue careers, that will be fruitful and that will be satisfying, and that is in the line of their passion. And here you have a business that is completely different from the career paths that your children want to take. So how do you integrate them into the business? For example, you're in the business of transport, and maybe your kids, one of them wants to be maybe a pilot, the other one would want to be a teacher, the other one would want to be a doctor, but you're in the business of transport. So how do you bring them on board to become part of this business movement?
Actually, what happens, or the ideal situation would have been, when the business is still young and their children are still young, incorporate them in the business, let them go, maybe transport, let's assume it's transport of a matatu business or something. Let them go and see how they are run. Let them go and know that when money is collected, they take it to the SACCO, they do ABC and D, the kind of expenses that are incurred, the way to authorize those expenses, and who to give the finance, who to handle the finances, all the different departments. Like for instance, in the matatu industry, there is the fueling. Let the children know how the fuel system goes on, whether it's by card, whether it's by cash, whether it's by purchase orders or the rest. Let them know marketing. If they want to venture into another market, what happens? Let them know. Though they're in different sectors, let them at least have an understanding of what daddy or mommy does in that industry. Once they do that, then let them understand the marketing aspect of it, whether, assuming they have a SACCO and they are bringing in people in the matatu sector, the SACCO. Once they understand all the specific areas of that, they are in a better position. But the problem now comes in, where like you're in the matatu industry and the people you are bringing in are like from the medical background. Those are two different backgrounds. Because in the matatu industry, you have to stand your best, and in the doctor's area, the medical industry, you are so polite, so professional, So at times it becomes tricky to adopt, but ideally the professionalism in the doctor's industry, in the medical industry, should be the same professionalism in the matatu's industry. Like when they introduced these double matatus, it had a very unique way of doing things. At one point, it's even the same model was adopted by 2NK. They brought in some ladies, well dressed. They had the very polite way of talking to their customers. That is if it is a family business, let them understand these things. Let them be creative. Let them strive to take it to a higher height, not just to the way we know matatu industries here. Yeah. But in case you find that your hairs are not compatible with this completely, I'll advise you look for professionals to run it on their behalf.
There are steps that you have to follow when you are coming up with a succession plan for your business. Can you take us through them?
Okay, some of the steps that you have to follow is to identify the future. Where do you want to go as a business? Once you identify the future, we can use the matatu industry. We are currently in Nairobi. We want to go and start operating in Nakuru and the other areas. You look at internally within the family. Do you have those qualities? Do you have those attributes of someone who can take the company to that level? Once you find you have, it's a plus. If you don't have, you start now trying to build them. From there, you look at the gaps that are there
in business.
Yeah, the gaps that are there in the family, in the context of the business now. The gaps that are there. Even if this person has the qualities, what does he or she require to advance? At least to be like the owner or perfect more than the owner. From there, you look at the ideas that they have. When you look at the ideas they have, in line with that business, they can introduce these instead of cash way of operating the swipe. They look ideas. I mean, the most efficient way and the most effective way of operating the business, and then you implement the best idea. You can test run. Maybe I will advise that whoever the owner of the business is the family, but the person who started the business, they should take a few days off, or they should run with this potential candidate in future. That is the way to grow, and those are the steps. At least when you do that, by the time, even if the person exits, take a holiday, takes early retirement, or then unfortunate events, the person dies, there is someone who is competent enough to run it. If from the second step of identify the talents that are there, you found that it's a pure mismatch, there I'll advise you go for professionals to run on behalf.
You've looked at the company internally, and you have discovered that you do not have the potential expertise that could run this company in the next 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now. And now you have to focus on outsourcing. How do you then identify the best company that can help in the crafting of a succession plan for your business?
When you look at your company and you realize that you don't have the skills necessary, the requisite skills to run it for the next so many years, you go and start outsourcing that service to another person to help you run it. And the way to do it is that my advice is that you look at yourself, you map the company and you map your family. By mapping, I mean you look at the details of the company, like you do a gap analysis of the company, so that you know where need is, which areas are needed to be promoted. Once you do that, Now you look at the available service providers. You try to match the need versus the demand for your company versus what the market supplies. And you have a sit down with them and you discuss. Basically, it's not as easy as that, because at times you might go into trap. In Nairobi these days there are so many things. So my advice is that contact people who had similar problems and they were able to resolve them. When you contact them, they give you good referrals, credible referrals. That one, it can help you to craft it. But the bottom line is that when you're crafting the succession plan, or when you're consulting people to do it for you, you have to have a focus. Because when you go there and you're just vague, you tell them, I just want the business to be open, be very open for them to understand you properly. Let them know where the vision started, where it is now, and where you wanted it to be. It is until that point that they can now know how to assist you. But when you're not open to them, it might be very difficult for them to give you a good result.
Look here, I mean, we're discussing succession planning. It takes tears, sweat and blood, hours of planning to come up with a business. It is a desire of each and every one of us that you start a business that will outlive generations. And the question is, how do you get to that point? And that's why we're having this conversation around succession planning. I know you're out there, you've done this before, and the ideas that you have, get in touch with us at O'Brien. Kimani is my Twitter handle. At KBC Channel 1, let's just get to hear how you handled this issue, because it can be a thorny subject within a family, and if not well handled, it has the potential to break the family or even to dissolve this business. That is not what we want. We want a situation whereby everybody is carried on board and everyone feels that they are part of this business. The question is, how do you get there? And this is the kind of conversation that we're having here in the studio with Stephen Kangede. He's a business restructuring expert as well as a succession planning expert. He's joining us here. And so we are discussing, how do you see a talent, or how do you identify a talent that I, as O'Brien Kimani, I'm in this kind of business. I have identified this person to be the one who will take over me once I exit the stage, because you cannot dance forever. The dance floor is not for you forever. So do you inform them?
Yes, you inform them. Actually, this is a continuous process. It's not an end to. It's not an end. It's just a process. What happens is that, like for instance, a family business is very interesting because it's presumed that you grow together, you dine together, you spend your time together. So it is very easy for you to learn who is a spendthrift, who is all the characters. You can tell because you are one family. Actually, you need to be talking to them. Like the way we talk to our children, and we tell them that, I want you to read well, because tomorrow you'll have your own family. Read well so that you can support your own family. The same talk should come here. Read well, okay, like how you used to be told when you're young that so many vijana, you'll get a good job. There was that slogan. So the same way, you need to be talking to your children that this business, let them understand that this business feeds them, this business clothes them, this business is everything to them. Remove the business from their lives and they are doomed. They go to the slums. Until they understand that, it is very difficult for them to have the sense that the initiator of the business wanted. So what happens is that you talk to them and you let them understand. Culture change is very difficult, and this is the problem with succession management, because you're used to, like for children and probably the wife, assuming the husband is the owner of the business, you're used to be given. So once you exit from the business, maybe you kick the bucket or you retire, take another retirement, the subjects that used to be given, if they don't change their minds from being given to creating now, it becomes a problem, because they'll be going there just to take. They don't know how to create, they just know how to take.
We've seen companies whereby, I mean, the replacement planning is usually a well-guarded secret, and it is not revealed until the last minute, whereby when, for example, the chairman of a company or the chairwoman of a person of a company is retiring, that is when they inform the company during their final AGM as chairpersons that in the spirit of ensuring there is success and growth in this company, we have identified Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so to take over the reins of leadership in this company. Is that a good strategy?
It's a good strategy because that's an established company. In most family businesses, that doesn't happen. But for established companies, it does happen. It is a good strategy because it safeguards so many other external factors to the business. You know, when you hear that there's a change of leadership in the company is perceived to be weaker than the way it was. Like, for instance, when Michael Joseph left Safaricom, people didn't know what kind of a new leader is coming in. When Bob Collymore left and Ndegwa took over, there were those uncertainties. People avoid that. In the corporate industry, it even affects the shares of the company, the value of the company it affected. So it is better to hold it until it is the right time to pass over the information. But for a family business, I'll advocate for, let us talk and we know from the word go that daddy likes working with this person, mommy like working with this person, so that whoever is manning the company, when they go, at least they, even if they are not told, they know that this is the right person because they know the qualities and they know everything about this person. Yeah, the do's and the don'ts, the weaknesses and the strengths, they know them. And that is why it is always important it is like there are those expressly told and there are those perceived. Like in a family setup, the firstborns are small parents. Assuming that is a scenario, because of the responsibilities that the firstborns have, and for your information, they turn out to be very mature because they have so many obligations in the family. So it is taken that even if they take over, it is well. The problem comes in when you take the lastborn there, like the biblical case of David. That is a problem because people are perceived to be biased and it brings some more conflicts. But once you tell them in advance, I always advocate for people to do their will in advance. Let us know what you want us to have and where you want us to go. If you leave it and bad luck, sometimes you might go before even the will. It brings chaos in the family.
So you have identified that person ABC, AB will take over the reins of leadership in this company. Do you tell them?
Yes, you do. But you can tell them to hold, but they know. Let them prepare. Let them psychologically be prepared. You know, at times, you might be given some information and it actually distorts your judgmental capability. Like a good example, when people take these betting things, when you get a lot of money, it makes you not think properly because of that information. But when you are prepared in advance, you can articulate that thing and start planning like the leader that the person wants you to be. It's important to tell them.
You also have a situation whereby some people, when they discover that I'm finally going to take over, the mantle from my father, from my mother, from my big brother, my sister, or whoever, in running this business family, they start riding roughshod on the other people, and that's why sometimes you are advised not to tell a potential successor that the other one taking over. But in case you'd want to tell them, then how do you help them immersed in that kind of an information, how do you now start preparing them to be the leader that you want them to be tomorrow?
Actually, the question here is, which is more dangerous? You probably die and you leave billions in your account, and I come to learn that I'm the one to man it. Or when I'm with you, you prepare me, and then when you die, at least I knew that I was the one to take over the place. So it is better to prepare in advance rather than to have that surprise shocks the last minute. Usually you make some decisions that are not right at all. But in either way, no one is perfect. I advocate for, whenever you want to have succession plan, let the person go for some further training. Education is very good. Training on management can go to, we have very good schools doing management courses. Training on the various aspects based on the key aspect of the business, based on the core line of the business, the core business of the business. At least the person to have a general understanding, so that you don't just go there blindly. Just go there just to be told what to do. This is what happened, this is what happened. You don't even know what this means. Like for instance, whenever a person is taking over, I will advise them to go for some financial training, because when the accountant comes and tells them that we made 100 million profit, we made this and this loss, you can't understand. What you know is that you have money in the bank, but you don't know that the component of this money is not your money. So it is always good when you tell them, let them prepare in advance, let them go for the specific courses they need, so that they can upgrade in their competence. Yeah.
And in a situation whereby, a company was running smoothly, but because of ABCD, or because of unforeseen circumstances, the company runs into headwinds. Like, for example, we know so many companies are struggling because of COVID. But now we have to adapt. We have to accept that we are living in a different environment, the so-called the new normal. And you get to a point whereby now you have to change tact. Now you have to restructure. You have to be different. You have to reorient your business, into another direction. How do you get to that point? The business of restructuring.
Actually, restructuring is the new normal of today's business, because the way business used to be done years back is not the way they are done today. Business, the environment are different. The regulatory bodies are different, as in the taxes, what you're supposed to do. So restructuring is a very important thing in businesses today, because it brings in some new way of doing things. It makes them competitive, makes businesses efficient, and they refocus on where they want to go. Yeah.
So when you're restructuring a company, what are the factors do you consider before you can say, now we need to do ABCD, and we need to tap into these talent?
Okay, when you're restructuring a company, there are some factors that make you restructure. These are some of the factors that make you restructure. Is having you restructure because in most cases you have a problem, a financial problem. Some of the factors that trigger you to do the restructuring process is like when you have cash flow problems. Cash flow problems is a bit wide. It means that maybe the control systems, the internal control systems are not good. You can't manage your stock. You can't deal with your suppliers. You can't pay your suppliers on time. And basically, when obligations fall due, when you're required to pay something, you have a problem. So that is what we refer to as cash flow problems. Whenever you spot that, there's a problem in the company. Then another thing, when you start getting some conflicting information from the company, this manager says this, the other manager says this, and they are relating to the same thing, you should know there's a problem with that company. Another one is when you persistently have the desire to acquire financing, external financing, selling of nominal shares, it means the company has some problems because they are trying to attract some more funds. Usually, when there is new competitors in the market, it may require you to restructure so that you can align yourself with the new normal, because you can't assume that how you used to sell when because the only company that doesn't require that, like in Kenya, is Kenya Power, is a monopoly. Otherwise, all the other companies, even hospitals, you see this one opening here, the other one opening in the next mall.
There's competition.
All companies, competition is too stiff, so you have to look for new ways, to align yourself with the market.
Before 2015, corporate Kenya used to operate in a very haphazard way, but with the coming into effect of the Insolvency Act, that came into force in 2015, companies were given a new lease of life, that if a company is going through financial challenges, if a company is going through management issues, it doesn't automatically means the death of the company. There are other instruments that can help salvage this company, and one of them is getting qualified managers, to manage your business. And this is part of the restructuring process. So, at what point do you, as a leader of the company, get to know that this company, we need external help? We need to tap the expertise of administrators, to get on to come on board.
Actually, what happens is that when you realize that the company you're running is having problems, and in most cases financial problems and leadership problems, because they're the key things that make any company fall: financial, leadership, management. When you realize you can't pay your suppliers that have given you money, actually it is the suppliers that go to court and say that we need to recover our money, and the only way to recover our money is by holding your assets. So, but as the leader of the organization, you should, before it gets to that point, you should look for experts to come and try to salvage the company and do restructuring. Restructuring in the sense that you try to renegotiate with the suppliers for some more favorable terms, renegotiate with your bankers for some more favorable terms, tap into other markets, renegotiate with your customers. For instance, if you are selling and you are given some credit days, some long credit days, you can renegotiate with them to explain to them that you have some financial difficulties, so that they can shorten the time to make good your cash flow problems. You can also go to the extent of looking for other people to sell shares to because when it goes to the point that as a creditor goes to the to court and they are given rights to attach your properties, there you have no rights. So it is the role of the leaders and the managers to ensure that before it goes to that point, we do everything we can do to ensure that we salvage the company, we salvage the image of the company, even if it is going to take some little longer to repay these people, but at least we repay them.
In corporate Kenya, and until recently, when we used to hear that a company has gone into administration, it has been placed under administration, we automatically knew that this was the end of this company, because the next step was liquidation. And liquidation is a final process, of winding up a company, whereby you attach the property and the assets of this company. But this is somehow changing. But how then do we build this confidence that, hey, look here, when a company is placed under administration, it doesn't mean that it's the death of this company. It means that this company, it needs to be relooked into, it needs to be restructured. How do we bring about that confidence in corporate Kenya?
Actually, that is where we need good leaders who sell the word of confidence to them, because spoken words are very important. You need to come clean. Tell people that it is true. we are facing these difficulties, but these are something that we can overcome these. Just give us time. Because initially, as you have said, when you go into management, people knew that you'll soon be liquidated and that's the end of you. But right now, the managers that we have, though some are still going under, but they try to salvage the company. Even if you are going to scale down the operations, but they salvage, no matter how small scale it is, instead of making the whole company go under. Communicate with the customers, communicate with all the stakeholders, because all the stakeholders are involved when you talk of a company. Communicate with the government on some tax holidays, communicate with the suppliers for some better terms, communicate with the banks for some longer loan period. Just communicate with them. Yes, and then you act. Don't just communicate and you stay back. Act. No, do a very good SWOT analysis, do a very good gap analysis, and you know the key areas that are killing the company, then address them. If it is people, change them. It is the systems, change them. Change things, at least you. If it is the processes, you change them. You attain your objective. You should have a goal. At this point, it is a critical stage. You should have a goal that how we are going to, after restructuring, how we are going to overcome this big burden. You work out a plan with them. Once you work out a plan with them, you ensure that it is implemented to date. I like this case of when Uchumi went under, the CEO, the then CEO. He was very good in communicating.
That was Jonathan Siano.
Yeah, Jonathan Siano. He was very good in communicating, and he was giving updates. That builds confidence, even for all the stakeholders. So that is the way to go.
Good. I want us, first of all, I want to take you to a press briefing by Treasury CS Ukuri Yatani. He's talking about budget, and as you can see, let's first of all listen to him, and we'll be back with more.
Ourselves seriously for the benefit of our people, speak in one voice, and ensure the current ongoing discussions will not be left behind. For all the people here today, we support our President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, and the political direction that's going to give to us. We support him, we support his alliance, and will fight for our fair share of our own voice over the resource of this country to benefit, for us to be on the political discussion table, to be not only a participant in the agenda, but importantly be an intrinsic participant in the current ongoing political discourse. I want to quickly ask to donate a little bit of my time to Honorable Kenan, who is a Jubilee parliamentary leader, just to introduce, and then we'll have Senator Abdul Haji, who is going to read our formal press release, and then we'll ask Senator Fatuma Dulo to wrap it up. Honorable Kenan.
Thank you so much, Sir Ukur, members of the Fourth Estate. I think I do not need to introduce the members who are here. You can see a number of members of the National Assembly, members of the Senate, CSCs, a number of PSCs, CSCs, and a number of governors and other very special people from Northern Kenya. I'm sure you're not surprised. We are in the season of politics. All of you live in this country. You are aware of what is happening. You are aware of the different groupings that I imagine, and this has been part of the trend actually. For those of you who are familiar with the history of this country, since the advent of multipartyism in 1991 to date, barely 6 months or 1 year to the general election, you have seen the emergence of different groupings, and that is the essence of power. That is the essence of politics and democracy. So this group from Northern Kenya, for the first time, and I must admit, in the past we have been flower girls or flower boys for different groupings. This time around, because we occupy 70% of the landmass of the Republic of Kenya, and you know what constitutes the sovereign Republic of Kenya? First is land, second is people. We have decided as a group, first and foremost, and the group that you see, a group who are leaning towards the initiative by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, the handshake, and this other group called the OCA group. So you see now, it's not just out of the wellness, it's a group that is leaning towards the initiative by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga under the handshake, and the OCA group. So it's not an accident, and we are not trying to toy around. We are not in the wilderness, and that is why we are here. So this group that you see here, and you can look around, these are the brains from Turkana to Lamu. These are the brains of the Asal community. So that direction, and I think this should come out, the direction we are asking our people and the direction we are taking is to support and to be part of the initiative by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Right Honorable Amolo Odinga, and the OCA team. But in our own grouping, we want to shed off that tag of being flower girls and flower boys and sit on the table where those groupings will be making critical decisions. And that is why you are sitting here, and therefore, welcome. Henceforth, I'm sure you will not be asking. We are not saying we represent 100%. Obviously, in politics, it's democracy. You will see this go together. But I can tell you this group that you see here will represent 90-something% of the interest of those Asal regions up to Lamu. And I'm sure this will surprise many people, because in the past, you know, it's like we will just be invited for something that, no, this is a departure from the way we used to do things. So at this juncture, I want, she says something and then he reads final.
No, it's okay.
Okay. At this juncture, I want to invite Senator Abdul Haji. He's among the new kids actually of the block. Not in terms of age, but in terms of to read our formal statement, so that you can also contextualize what we have been brainstorming since morning. And I'm sure it's difficult actually to put all the ideas in a two-page document, but I think that will help you. So welcome, feel free, support this group to deliver Kenya, to make sure Kenya is united, to make sure we have one country as we have always stood for. Thank you. Karibu Senator Abdul.
Asante sana. Good morning. Today, Thursday, 2nd September 2021, we, the leaders from the arid and semi-arid areas, gathered to discuss matters that touch on our region and the nation at large. 58 years after independence, it is timely that we reflect together as leaders and the people from Asal areas on their achievements, current and future aspirations, as well our collective contributions to development of our country. Upon concluding these deliberations, we resolve as follows. Recognizing the shared history, heritage, and destiny of the communities of Asal areas, shaped by arid climatic conditions, deprivation, and systematic marginalization, aware that Kenya is currently grappling with an important discourse on political transition and succession ahead of the 2022 elections, appreciating that unity of purpose remains fundamental to the future hopes and aspirations of the communities in the region. Mindful of the likelihood that the socio-economic emancipation of Asal areas will remain a mirage unless leaders from the region speak with one voice. Noting with great concern that despite Asal areas constituting a vast landmass with a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and culturally diverse population, it has suffered from political and social economic.
And those are elected members of Northern Kenya giving a statement on the ongoing succession debates. And of course, commenting on the ongoing political debate in regard to the 2022 general elections, and of course you have heard it from him. Let's come back to the studio where some very important discussions are going on here in regard to succession planning as well as business restructuring. But before we do that, let's first of all go to Hilton Hotel, where stakeholders in the banking industry are meeting to discuss the credit sharing platform. Let's first of all listen in.
Data analytics in the credit granting process. Good quality data is needed in order to ensure that the credit availability is timely and also well priced. That way we shall empower deserving SMEs and individuals to boost commercial activity and contribute towards achievement of these 4 national priorities. The challenge therefore is for us. How do we in CS make this a reality so that we play our very critical role in supporting the country's macroeconomic agenda? I'm impressed by the progress of the CIS framework that has been ranked very highly by the World Bank Group, represented here, in its assessment of such systems across various markets. In its last assessment, Kenya had a CIS penetration rate of around 36.4% of the audit adult population. Ladies and gentlemen, I therefore would like to say that the impact of COVID in our credit market has been devastating, and the role of quality data in the recovery process is crucial. I want to say in conclusion that we are looking for a CIS mechanism to contribute to a sustained recovery in lending to private sector during this COVID era by providing quality in-depth data to assess market trends and analyze borrowers' risk profiles. I therefore challenge you to take up the mantra of driving recovery through data. That's my official comment. But I think as a businessman, let me say, we all know ourselves. And one of our serious business leaders in this country once said Kenyans are very peculiar. I think if you ask the banks, the change of personality between a borrower before he borrows, how nice he is, how courteous, how timely he is in attending meetings with the banks, how ready he is to provide information. A few months later, unable to pay, this guy has a personality change. Kicking and insulting, being led to the auctioneers, he becomes a totally different person. But I think with this data, those who want to honor their obligations and keep a good credit score will benefit from better interest, and will have greater access to credit, enabling our population, our SMEs, and our business people to thrive in this new regime. Let us walk this journey, and at the NSC and in the various other hats in business that I wear, I am 100% committed to this cause, and it is certainly an idea whose time has come. So, Chairman and the rest of the team, congratulations, and we stand with you in making this a reality and in creating a more enabling environment for our business sector in this country. Asanteni sana na mubarikiwe.
Well, that is the chairman of Nairobi Securities Exchange, Kiprono Kitonyi, there giving his remarks during the ongoing credit information sharing code of conduct launch at the Hilton Hotel here in Nairobi. And of course, this comes at a time when the issue of information sharing, especially among Credit Reference Bureau, has come into sharp focus from the Central Bank of Kenya because of the critical nature of data. Before we wind up our interview, our first interview this morning, of course, I want to give Mr. Stephen Kang'ethe his chance now to definitely alert us or give us a heads up on what should be the way forward. And so, Stephen, briefly tell us this. I mean, there are companies there that are struggling. They are absolutely not, they do not know where to go from here because of the COVID-19 pandemic. What advice would you have for them?
Okay, thank you very much. Most of the companies today are struggling, not because of their own internal problems, but because of the environment problems, the external problems they have no control about. Now back to the internal problems that companies usually have, it becomes quite a difficult thing. Well, From here, there are some things indicators that one needs to know. Check, number one, check whether you are able to meet your financial obligations. Check whether you are meeting as per required, not too many, not too few. Check whether you are getting reports for your business or you are developing reports for your business. Check whether the numbers don't lie. If your profits are saying that you are making profits and you are not growing, your profits are saying that you are going under, take action at the right time. Take action today. Don't wait for tomorrow. If you need some more assistance, okay, there are some departments that are very important. Like always check at the finance department. Check at the reports they are producing to you. Always check at the marketing department because it is the core of the business. All businesses get their business from the marketing department. Always check on the reports they are giving and be reactive to them. Always check at the human resource department because human resource is the greatest asset of a company. And finally, adapt to changes that are happening in the market, whether technological, whether models of operating or anything, whether it's family business, whether it's corporate, any business, be sensitive to what is happening in the environment and also change. Finally, if you need some more assistance on this, you can contact us at Lilac Consultants. You can go to our website www.lilaconsultants.co.ke and we can share more.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed for your insight, of course, on this program, and we look forward to engaging with you more in the future.
Thank you.
All the best. We have been discussing the business of succession planning as well as restructuring. How do you tell and when do you tell that a company is actually in need of a serious restructuring, and at what point do you draft a succession plan for your business? You have had it all from Stephen Kangede. This is BizCheck. Our discussion next is on the prevailing food situation in Kenya. The National Drought Management Authority has raised concern, saying that almost 2 million people in Kenya, in about 20 counties, are facing starvation. And they have said that they have upscaled interventionary measures. And the question is this: how do we deal with this situation going forward? This is BizCheck. We are back after the break.
Is dangerous. He tried to rape me. He is my father's enemy.
Over my dead body.
The excitement of the Olympic Games doesn't just stop there, as the biggest para-sports event, the 2020 Paralympic Games, gets underway from the 24th of August to the 5th of September in Tokyo, Japan. So, get ready to be inspired by these sportsmen and women with outstanding abilities, and look out for Team Kenya too in their quest for glory by watching all the highlights daily on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
So all soldiers were escorting you here. Where's Princess Chin then?
What's going on here?
Would Fei ever forgive me? Instead, he would hate me. That would be the worst torture. So your father was a better choice.
You haven't realized your mistake and still want to cause more trouble?
Mingxiang has just died. I love him as much as you do.
Kill Han Yanqi.
夜远风半吹散沉香，江门气烟上。抓一味当归入药汤，相思泪水。
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo.
You're so happy because you're not thinking. Do you not realize that the case of Horatia was still wide open? They'll keep investigating till the guilty person is found.
Let go of me, Lucio. Let me go!
As we all know, this new product is one more source of pride for the company, of which henceforth I am the president. You're mistaken, Cesar.
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente, respetando tus espacios.
This week on Zurura, we visit a tribe rich in heritage and culture. Travel to one of Africa's largest markets.
I love the variety.
And take you through winding rapids. And of course, that's all coming right up on Zurura. Find your adventure.
من رزقي لاش والخالق يرزقني الله 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 ما في
Mwanamke ambaye amevaa hijabu huheshimiwa na huepuka vitimbi ambavyo wanafanyiwa wanawake wasiokuwa na stara.
Pia hakuna awezaye kumkabili kwa maneno ambayo kwamba ni machafu labda au maudhi, kwani anafahamu wazi kwamba mwanamke huyo ameshikamana na dini yake na vile vile anaheshimu utu wake.
Always follow your way, your way, your way. Oh, alayka sallallahu. Oh Muhammad, peace and blessings on you every day. Alayka sallallahu, oh Muhammad.
Welcome back. You're watching BizCheck. We are live from Broadcasting House. We have spent the last one hour actually discussing issues around business succession management as well as restructuring. Time now to shift gears and talk about food security in this country and of course food policies. If I can give you a backgrounder, last week the Drought Management Authority issued a statement saying that almost 2 million Kenyans are facing starvation, and there are serious interventions that are needed both by the private sector as well as the public sector to try and ameliorate this problem. And one of them was upscaling the distribution or the issue of cash transfer, as well as streamlining distribution of food. And the question is this is not something new. We have lived in this country knowing that at any given moment, a number of almost 1.5 million people are always in need of food. And the question is, how do we ensure that we deal with this problem once and for all? A number of initiatives have been have already started, and the question is this: how do we accelerate them? Joining us with this conversation is Ebenezer Amadi. He's a program manager, sustainable. He's a program manager, sustainable inclusive business, which is a component at KEPSA that deals with ensuring there is a sustainability in business and, of course, the circular economy. Thank you very much indeed, Ebenezer, for finding time to be with us. I mean, so we're in the year 2021 and we're still talking about 2 million Kenyans, facing starvation. I mean, this is absolutely wrong, right?
True. That's actually a sad state for the country to be in. And of course, Kenya is a water scarce country, and that also contributes to food security. And when we talk about food security, there are different components that we'll be able to look at. One is accessibility, the other thing is affordability, and the third thing is nutrition. So all these components then contribute to food security. So when you talk about having a food secure nation, then you have to ensure that the population has the ability to access the food, and by access it has also two components. If from the financial side again, because again you having the ability to purchase food or purchase grain for you to plant then also contributes to a food secure country in that context. Nutrition is also key. That's why we always talk about FNS, food nutrition security, where a population does not have a great mix of nutrition in the food that they have. We also consider a country not being food secure.
Mm-hmm. In this country for the longest time we've been talking about mechanization of agriculture, and we know as part of the Big Four agenda, food security and nutrition is part and parcel of government big agenda, to ensure that Kenyans do not only have access to food, but they have access to food that is nutritional. How comes we have never gotten it right? I mean, it's proper to say that how old we are now as a republic, mm-hmm. Almost 70 years. How comes we have never gotten it right?
Just to start with, Kenya produces about 40% of its food and imports the rest. So we have a gap for us to be able to reach. And mechanization is one of the ways for us to increase our production and to ensure that we also have enough food for the citizenry. So talking about different projects that the government has been able to implement, there are different initiatives that the government has had, especially looking at irrigation in ASAL areas, for example, mm-hmm. So as we're able to have harvesting throughout the year. But then again, these also have to begin at a pilot stage. You conduct some research, look at how then your production is able to increase. So I would say that there has been quite some progress over the years, but of course there's another thing that has kicked in, which mm-hmm. is climate change. And that is why people are coming up with initiatives, for example, to irrigate land. Mm-hmm. And when I started, I also mentioned that Kenya is a water scarce country. So you see that there are a number of components that then contribute to us not being a food secure country. Mm-hmm. Beginning from water, moving from climate change, and again also financing. Mechanization also requires financing to implement some of the irrigation projects that we have. But some research that has been conducted in different counties shows that there are a number of avenues for us to increase our food production. For example, the other day I was reading a research on using biochar as soil amendments to be able to increase your production. But beyond using fertilizer, biochar as an amendment, you also need to have an environment that is conducive for the plant to grow. And that includes water as well.
Good. I mean, this narrative that Kenya, is a water scarce country, has been talked about, for quite a long time, and there is a section of the population that does not believe in this because, look, we share the second biggest freshwater lake in the world in the name of Lake Victoria. We have the world's biggest desert lake in our borders. I'm talking about Lake Turkana. We have various rivers, that flow into the Indian Ocean. I'm talking about River Tana. We also have a long shoreline of Indian Ocean, and we also receive some favorable amount of rainfall every year, and so the issue has never been that we do not have enough water. And the issue has always been, how do we harness the water that we have? Because we have countries that actually are not as favored as we are in terms of water. And I'm talking about countries like Israel, countries like Egypt, for this matter. So how do we harness, the little that we have and exploit it to our benefit?
Thank you so much for the question. I think just to start with, for the benefit of our viewers, I will start from the context of the definition of a water scarce country. In this context, then we mean it's more or less like the amount, quantity of water we have vis-a-vis the population. And the recommended is about 1,000 cubic meter per capita, and Kenya is about
that is per person per year.
Yeah, per person per year. And Kenya is about at 500. So you see the gap, and that is why as you call it, a narrative saying that Kenya is a water scarce country. But just also going beyond that, you talked about Kenya having a freshwater lake. I think 2 years back, I was having fish just close to Lake Victoria. I'd visited Kisumu, and there was a lady and a gentleman who just walked next to the lake, and there was a child, and then the child asked, "Mom, I thought this is a freshwater lake," and because of the hyacinth and the way it looked, and it was a joke but a sad state when the dad looked at the child and said, "Freshwater only means that it doesn't have salt." So I listened to that, and it was funny, but still not so good to hear, because generally that meant that the water that you have is not potable, is not safe for you to drink. And in classification of water, access to water, you'll find that they look at safety, and looking at the hierarchy of you getting access to water. You're beginning from a piped house to you walking about 30 minutes to get the water from a river, and then you just getting water either from a borehole or a shallow well. So all these components then bring in the aspect of we're talking about water being Kenya being a water scarce country. The element that you've brought in, which is very interesting, is using what we have and being efficient, right? So in essence, efficiency means that you use the same quantity of resource that you have to produce more. And that is what we are able to do in Kenya. I've seen a number of projects doing research and looking at different avenues or technology for irrigation. Some technologies that we use end up wasting water. For example, you normally see people just using their hose pipe to try and irrigate their farms, and others then use like a drip lining. That's a more efficient way to irrigate your land. So technology also comes in very well when you talk about irrigation in the farms. So it's not impossible. We also have different avenues where people, also encourage kitchen gardening, just for you to get your vegetables.
Very good.
In the farms.
Yeah, let's now dash to the lakeside city of Kisumu, and you have just cited Kisumu. Kisumu. We now want to listen to Wycliffe. He's having a conversation around sustainable farming, and he's at the Mixer Farm in Kisumu, and he's talking to the owners or the managers there on how they have managed to come up with this kind of sustainable farming model. Wycliffe, are you on the line? Can you hear me?
All right.
Sure, Wycliffe.
No, Brian, Cindy.
Wycliffe is on your screen actually, and as you can see,
O'Brien. A very good morning to you, O'Brien. I believe you're having a good morning back in studio. And what an important discussion you're having there in Nairobi. You do realize that a secure nation, actually a productive nation, requires a good supply of food. And being in Western region where sugarcane is normally the biggest, actually most farmers engage in sugarcane farming, both in large scale and small scale. But we are seeing in recent past the leadership of the Lake Region Economic Bloc, that's the LREB, are trying to diversify, maybe to deviate from sugarcane farming as the main economic activity here, and moving on to venture into aquaculture and actually in fish production. But right now I'm joined here by a farmer who is actually doing farming activities, diversifying into various other farm produce, and who understands actually the economic intrigues of this region, and it will help us understand actually if this region produces enough farm produce that can be able to sustain the population in this region. Mr. Charles, Brother Charles, you are live on KBC, and probably as a farmer, I can see you are growing so many different fruits and vegetables here. Do you, as a farmer in this region, you understand actually the economic intrigues of this region? Yeah. Just talk to us. Do you think the farmers in this region have that capability actually to produce enough food that can sustain the population here?
Thank you very much. As a farmer in this region, I think the farmers in this region do not have capacity to produce food that can sustain this area. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because in this area, most farmers are doing rain-fed agriculture. When farmers do rain-fed agriculture, and nowadays we have very unreliable rainfall patterns. So with the rainfed agriculture, we are not able to satisfy the needs of food requirements for the community around. And when, on the other hand, we usually find that we are fed by surrounding counties like Kisii. Actually, some of the food actually come from the neighboring country, Uganda. So that just explains the fact that we are not having sufficient food in this area that is produced by ourselves.
And why do you think that is into play? Why are farmers not able to produce to the capacity that is required?
One of the aspects that I can think of is over-dependence on certain types of crops. For example, sugarcane. Farmers have learned to grow sugarcane in this area, and in many cases, you find that the milling industries in this area do not have capacity to absorb all that has been produced by the sugarcane farmers. And my take on this would be, if farmers could diversify to other crops, then it would help the farmers to produce enough food and also get enough money for their pockets, for their daily needs.
Your farm here, I can see there is sugarcane, of course, there is bananas and vegetables here. But when I look up to check up your farm, I realize that you are processing fruits into juice. This is, I think, is in part of value addition. Can you help us draw or rather correlate value addition and food sustainability?
Thank you so much. Now, we find that most agricultural produce are highly perishable. So one can have a very good production, but by the time you supply your commodity to the market, there is abundance of that crop in the market. That means because there is too much supply, what you are going to get will be very low. Now, if you get low sales, then it means you are not even going to break even. So my thought and what we are practicing at Mixer Farm, we do value addition to whichever crop that we produce. For example, if you have bananas, and most farmers in this area are small scale, you have 20 bunches. How do you sell 20 bunches when you have not been in the field for that long? It is difficult because you have not been in the marketing channel. So what you do some value addition. Value addition could mean that you make some jam from the bananas. You can make some flour that you can use for baking from the bananas. It's not just a matter of your needs as a family, but the extra can be sold. What I'm saying is that when we do some level of value addition, we are lengthening the duration of selling the crop which we are producing. Apart from lengthening the duration of the crop we have produced, we are also adding value. When you just sold at the farm gate, you are not going to get that much money. But when you do value addition, you are going to get that money that you should have sold at the farm gate. In addition, you are going to get some extra that accrues because of value addition.
Actually, that brings me to my next question. You have that capability to process some of the fruits to make other products. What about those farmers that do not have that ability? What is their fate?
Now, what happens is just knowledge. Most of what is required in order to do value addition does not even require much. Actually, even for you to make jam, it just requires a functional kitchen. Whatever is required to make jam will be available in any functional kitchen. So what is lacking is simply the knowledge for this kind of processing. Even the flour that you can make from various food crops, you can just use an ordinary mill which is available in every community to mill and get your flour. So for me, it is a matter of lack of knowledge that makes our people to perish.
Talking about knowledge, I realize that your farm actually conducts training within the community. What is the reaction? What is the reception among the people that you train?
Farmers are usually very change prone. If they realize that there is something that they can do in order to make some money, that is putting money in their pocket, and also put food on the table, they usually adopt. However, because of lack of this knowledge, most people still are not aware that at Mixer Farm we do training of value addition. But the people who have learned that this happens at Mixer Farm, people come in one by one. Some people bring their various groups, and we train as groups. And our training are not limited only to Kisumu County. We cut across even other countries like Siaya, Homa Bay, and Migori.
And what do you think probably the county can do maybe to promote, to offer training actually to farmers so that they can also adopt the value addition project?
For me, what I think the county should do is to sensitize farmers and also subsidize on the costs of doing this training. The county are also having personnel that are well endowed with this knowledge. So what I think is the county should have a lot of more practical sessions, moving farmers from one place to the other so they can see practically where what they can do in order to have some income from their farms and also make what they produce as their own food needs in the house. I particularly belong to a group called Game Farmers, and Game Farmers has tried to visit various farmers and sensitize them on issues of large-scale production, on issues of value addition, and on issues of diversification, so that you don't over-rely on one crop, because we know that if you are even relying on rainfall, when rainfall patterns are not very good for one crop, it can be good for another one. When rainfall patterns are not good for one particular enterprise, it can be good for another one. What I'm saying is, if you can't make it on the agricultural plant side, you can venture into livestock. You can do some fish farming, which in many cases you can even do with water that you get from your own borehole. And as here I'm talking, we are talking about some very small fish ponds that can be replicated so that every household can have small fish ponds which they can replicate as they see success. In the past, we have had very big fish ponds which are expensive to build, and when you finally build it, many times because of lack of knowledge how to run it, many farmers have failed in that kind of a system.
And that is the point of the education. I wish we could have this kind of discussion more and more, but due to time constraints, I think we'll end this year. But we'll be visiting you again to get more of this, so that we can actually other farmers can borrow a leaf from you. But in the meantime, thank you for that. O'Brien, that is Mr. Charles, actually is a farmer here talking to us about how we can produce, right? Okay.
Wycliffe, yeah, thank you. And the fact of the matter is, even what you would call the traditional farming methods, we are being forced to change. And as you have just rightly said, I mean, the western part of this country is known for sugarcane farming, but now you can see there is some level of diversification. Farmers are venturing into other non-traditional farming of crops like, cabbages, like maize and so forth. What are they saying is their biggest challenge, in their agricultural diversification plans?
Actually, the biggest challenge that these people are talking about here, just like you got it from Mr. Charles here, is lack of knowledge. The way they can diversify and probably deviate from the traditional kind of farming. You do realize that this region is, just like you rightly put it, this region is known for sugarcane farming, but then that is not sustainable, given that the factories in this region cannot process that the produce from various farms, and now they are diversifying to various other crops like cabbages and everything else, just like you mentioned. But the lack of knowledge on how to run this kind of these other farming practices is what it is the hindrance factor. And that's the reason you had Mr. Charles calling upon the county governments probably to use the resources they have to carry out sensitization of to farmers, actually to instill knowledge within them so that they can maybe also venture into other crops that so that this can be sustainable in the long time. O'Brien.
Thank you very much for finding time to be with us, of course, and in the interest of time we'll have to come back to the studio so that we can wind it up with Ebenezer Amadi. Thank you very much, Wycliffe, and all the best. That's our correspondent in Kisumu, Wycliffe Okech, joining us there, of course, to give us a perspective of what's happening in that part of the country. Let's get back to the studio now and continue with the conversation with Ebenezer Amadi. He's a sustainable, inclusive business manager at KBC. And we are discussing about the food situation in this country. Wycliffe, there has been a lot of talk about sustainable farming and the circular economy farming. Can you help our people understand, first of all, what are these big words and what exactly do they mean?
Thank you, Brian, for that question. It's an interesting discussion that Wycliffe is having with the gentleman in Kisumu. And one of the components that came in very fast in mind when the gentleman was talking about the different initiatives that they are picking up was the circular economy approach. And by circular economy, we basically mean, let me begin from a linear economy model, where you produce a good, you use it, and then you dispose of it. Mm-hmm. But in circularity, we're looking at you producing a good, using it, reusing it, and then when you get to the point where you can no longer reuse it, you can either refurbish it or recycle the item. So it's basically using, for layman's language, we'll say using waste as input for production and ensuring that you prolong the life of an item or a commodity in the market. In agriculture, we use the same component, but now, for example, when you produce products, you'll be able to use some of the byproducts, for example, as soil amendments. For example, if we use a case of someone who has cattle, so you will use the manure and take it to the farm as an additive for the soil, to improve on your production. You will be able to milk the cow, and when you slaughter the cow for meat, you use the skin to be able to either produce drums, or some time back we used to use the same skin to produce attire. So that's the component of circularity. And you will notice back in the day, from a cow, you'll also be using the hooves. We always make this joke, for example, when you slaughter a goat, the soup, right? So where do you think the soup comes from? It's from the boiled it's from the boiled goat, in addition to the bones, right? So that you get calcium. Yes, out of it. So
and of course you can use horns and hooves to make batons.
Yes. So now that's the component. That's the what we call the circular economy approach or concept, to break it down into the layman's language. So it's a component that we have been using over the years in the farm, in the rural areas, but we moved away from that and started to appreciate convenience. For example, now using single-use plastic, right? You talked about horns. I used to see people in the village also taking the local what should I call it? The local brewers. The local brew, yeah, using the horn as a cup. Yeah. So every component that you have someone will not be quick to throw it or to dispose of it. They will find a use of it. And that's the approach we're calling a circular economy.
That is what you call the circular economy now. It is ensuring that every product, every produce in your farm, is put into a better use.
Yes.
It is put into, it's part of the production.
Yes.
And what about sustainable farming?
Sustainable farming basically just means two things. So we start from defining sustainability. So by sustainability, we mean we have three components where we talk about people, planet, and profit. Some people switch it up and say sustainability. Now, for a farm to be sustainable, then means that you must meet your short-term and long-term obligations, right? For example, buying your inputs, paying the people who help you around. If you've mechanized the farm, that means that you need to be able to maintain the machinery that you have. Now, that's the component of the profit side, because then again, once you're able to reduce on your costs, then your margin also goes up. Now, from the people side, means that you include the people at the bottom of the pyramid within your processes, right? And on the environment side means that any product that you use, you must ensure that it is environmentally friendly. Now, in totality, then we'll call that sustainable farming, because you're looking at your environment, you're looking at your business being a going concern, and you're also looking at people within your ecosystem.
And so it's a question of the 3 Ps. So as a country, I mean, we have not yet gotten to a point whereby we can say, hooray, we have embraced the circular economy, farming, and of course a sustainable business farming methods. Do you see us getting there anytime soon?
I see us getting there. For starters, when a country wants to transition from a linear to a circular economy, the first point they start with is policy. And I've seen the government also working closely with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And they're very keen also to revise the policies that exist. People might say, oh no, they're not doing enough. But from my end, I see half full cup rather than half empty cup. At least there's progress. And I have seen a lot of farmers also adopting the circular economy concepts. You've heard of the black, is it the black soldier flies?
Yeah.
And they use
in the aquaculture.
And they use the larva as feed for chicken. They also use it more or less as soil amendments, as manure in the end, and then
even fish feed.
Even fish feed. So that means that when you start your production at the farm, you'll be using whatever comes from the farm in the next process, right? So you're actually reducing your expenditure on inputs, right? And what that does is it increases your margin, and in eventuality you're also becoming environmentally friendly. So I see us getting there. I have seen also a lot of farms also, including flower farms, trying also to adopt sustainability also by reducing their carbon footprint, right? That's also one element, because greenhouse also then creates global warming, right? And we have also climate change. So all these components then contributes towards sustainability, looking at the environment. So we talk about things in isolation, but I like to bring them to connect them. That's why when you talked about having Kenya not being a food secure country, I touched on water, right, and also touched on climate change. So all these components are interrelated. One area that we should also be keen in is also looking at our water towers, right? Because how then can we improve on Kenya being a water secure country without looking at our water towers? So that's an area we need to focus on. Every time we also keep having conversations with the government, and I've seen the Ministry of Environment and Forestry being keen on increasing the forest cover from what it is now, from 7.6% to
about 10%.
To about 10%, and it also requires resources.
We have also seen, the setting up of an agency to deal with Kenya Water Towers, and I'm talking about Kenya Water Towers Agency.
Yes. So all these are initiatives that the government is also doing. The private sector also comes in play. We have been encouraging companies to adopt the CSR, corporate social responsibility, not as a feel-good kind of approach, but to ensure that they create change and impact to the environment and to the communities that they have. So when I talk about that, we're moving from encouraging corporates from planting trees to growing trees. And you'll realize planting a tree might cost you an average seedling will be about 100 shillings. Some also go between 30 to 50. And probably the resource it will take you to transport the seedling to the area where you want to plant it. So it could average max, let's say 200 shillings. But growing a tree, one tree will take you about 10,000 Kenya shillings.
Growing one.
That means that you need to take care of the tree, you need to water the tree, remove the weeds, and ensure that it grows.
And feed it with nutrients like manure.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the issues that the government has instituted, and we are talking about the Galana Kulalu food project. If you ask a lot of people, they think that that's a project that's died long time ago. We dusted the coffin and we buried it. But farther from the truth, the first 10,000 model acre farm is almost complete, and the government has employed the latest technology in irrigation, and we are talking about drip irrigation. So if the government is doing it under that model farm, which is 10,000 acres, how comes the private sector has not really come in strongly to embrace sustainable farming methods?
The private sector plays a key role in production in Kenya, O'Brien, and consistently we have been able to encourage them to adopt sustainable farming. And of course, when you talk about the Galana project, there might have been some challenges over the years, and when you're having a pilot, of course, it's also a learning curve. And by pilot, you mean you're starting small. So for a country, that is a small area. But if you look at it from an individual farmer, that's a very big area. So by pilot, you mean you're trying it out, and then you're also learning from the process, and then reach a place where you can upscale, go a bit larger than what is there. But going beyond that, different sectors, subsectors within the agriculture sector have been able to adopt innovations. For example, when you talk about fish farming, where now people are trying to use cages, but still having it in the lake. So what that does is that you're actually reducing on your level of fishing, the small, what people call omena, because to some extent that's why you see the government trying to regulate, and by looking at the size of the net that the fisherman goes to the lake with, because what they're trying to do is to reduce the harvesting of the omena, and give a period for there to be more production of fish in the lake. So I wouldn't say that we are slow at it. And I mentioned also the flower farms, who are trying also to include sustainable components within the farm.
But you see, for flower farms, those are multinationals, that are even being prodded from there, from the countries where they are domiciled, to embrace, sustainable farming. But we had to see a situation whereby, there's a 360 degrees, in terms of, dropping our agrarian farming methods, and adopting, new farming techniques. And you have talked about, aquaculture. And the government has developed, a concept on aquaculture through the Aquaculture Business Development Plan, whereby people are now being encouraged. You don't have to wait for fish from the sea, from the ocean, from the lakes, from the rivers. I mean, you can also do it, from the small farm that you have. So what do we need to do in a way to upscale, the uptake of sustainable farming models in this country?
The basic thing is to look at accessibility. The infrastructure, which is the roads, which is a major factor when you're looking at production costs. That's one thing that needs to be improved. The next thing is the pricing on inputs. So that also determines the price of the products that you have. And that plays a critical role because the forces of demand and supply come into play in the market. Because if you have your produce at a higher price, and someone has a cheap, affordable option, means you will not be able to sell your product. The other component is on reducing of food loss. So by also finding different innovations for storage and better alternatives to help the farmers, you will find that in Kenya we have more small-scale farmers who then do also subsistence farming. In trying to separate the issues, you realize that the three components that I've talked about will help the agriculture sector to improve in production. As we wind up, do you believe that sustainable farming and circular economic farming methods is a way to feed this nation at a time when the country is staring at a serious drought? So one thing I will mention is that at the moment you will not talk about sustainable farming when people are dying of hunger. The first thing you need to do is to address the issue that currently exists by giving food to the community in the ASAL areas that are dying of hunger. So that will be the first thing. And the next thing will be to look at how then do we improve on our production and also incorporate some of the innovations that we talked about, for example, the irrigation, and trying to increase access to inputs and also incentivizing our small scale farmers to produce. There was a time when I was young, I used to see cooperatives which were very active, and you had communities then decide to plant one crop and deliver it, and then they're able to look at the quality of the product, they package it, and then they sell it. So that gave the farmer the motivation to be able to plant and grow a particular crop, because they knew at the end of the harvesting season then I will get my returns. So we need to get that back up and the system working in the agriculture sector. And as the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, we're looking at these issues with the agriculture sector network, which is more like an angle looking at the sector boards within the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Very good. Looking at the issues on agriculture. Amadi, in the interest of time, we have to come to the end of this program. But thank you very much indeed for sharing your knowledge and, of course, the insight with us and, of course, with our farmers. Thank you so much for having me in your show. Very good. Ebenezer Amadi is the program manager, that is Sustainable Inclusive Business at the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, joining us this morning to help us understand how can we incorporate sustainable farming into our policies to ensure that we become a food secure nation, and of course in the spirit of conservation, in a bit to deal with
climate change effect, or what people are calling the Anthropocene. O'Brien, Kimani is my name. Thank you for your time. For the last 2 hours, we've been doing this. Always remember, we do these every Thursday right here on KBC Channel 1. Remember, Kurunzi Mashinani is coming up with Suleiman Yeri. Some very interesting conversations he's going to have on that program. Stay right here.
Uliniona?
Ukiusa?
Abana. Thank you very much. Sina swali lingine. You can get out, please.
Mimi na hata hatujuani. Ninaingilia wapi?
Kusema kweli mheshimiwa. Huyo mimi simjui hata nilikuta nilimwonea tu police station. I don't know her. Kuna mahali uliniachia mtoto wewe? Hapana. Thank you very much. Unaleta kielele hapa ya nini?
Si wewe uko na wivu na baby face.
Exactly. Kila mtu ananiita baby face. Wewe ndio unaniambia namna gani?
Mimi sina competition na mtu.
My name is Sampros Lutulai and I'm all day for you.
One of Africa's most elusive cats, the leopards.
So many scientists, they are focusing in other animals. They are focusing in other cats. They are focusing in other species, and they are forgetting leopard.
This is an area that the leopard clearly comes to. It's a natural salt lick. We've seen the leopard's footprints. We've also seen footprints of other animals, including baboons and impalas, and these are some of their favorite prey.
One mzee told me that there is a black leopard that is just found in your area. Few months, we got the black leopard in our camera traps.
Of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can find the fighter.
Our story today is about a girl called Tesh.
Today I'm going to show you guys on how to make barbecue chicken, so yummy and delicious.
What I like about young engineers is that they teach us about forces, because this one is belt energy or belt transmission.
You see, people think career is purpose.
Yes.
Career is not purpose. Purpose is anything you do with God. Purpose begins when you find Jesus.
Yes.
You remember the big phone with the big aerial?
Yeah.
And he manifested the phone.
Yes.
So you find that is education.
Fulfilled.
Yeah, he's fulfilled.
Yeah.
He's satisfied. So I told him, do this. Quit the job. So purpose, as it makes you a passion. You want to wake up, you are excited.
Yes.
You're excited to even, sometimes you don't sleep thinking about it.
Yes.
Alipochukua hatamu za uongozi, Rais Kenyatta alitoa kauli ya kupigana na ufisadi.
The last few months have seen a new intensity in the fight against corruption in Kenya. And we have made it very clear that corruption cannot and will not be tolerated. And the reasons could not be clearer. Corruption directly threatens Kenya's future.
Grabbers wamekaa kama ni wao watakuwa wa mwisho kuambiwa dunia fugeni murago dunia tunaelekea pale pengine. Hatuwezi kana namna hiyo. Tunataka waguzwe. Hao tuwagushe yote mpaka chini ili mtu ajue ufisadi ni uchungu na ufisadi kukula mali ya wananchi ni dhambi.
Grabbing ambayo inafanywa hata wale wanapiga kelele wakati alikuwa na grab angepiga kelele, lakini vizazi zijazo zitakuwa wapi?
Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban. Ni tarehe 2 mwezi wa Septemba mwaka 2021. Ni siku ya Alhamisi. Ni matumaini yangu kwamba ubuheri wa afya popote pale unapoitegea KBC. Karibu. Hii ni Kurunzi Mashinani na mimi ni Suleiman Yeri na mwenzangu Ishara ni Lensa Odingo. Tuandamani hadi tamati ambapo katika nusu saa hizi nitakuwa na kupasha taarifa ambazo zimegonga vichwa vya habari mashinani. Mzozo unatokota katika eneo la Kajiado ya Kati baina ya wafugaji ng'ombe na ngamia kuhusu maji na malisho, huku ukame ukiponda eneo hilo. Wafugaji ng'ombe wamelalamika kuhusu idadi kubwa ya ngamia wanaotafuta malisho katika eneo hilo kufuatia hofu ya kuenea kwa magonjwa ya mifugo. Wafugaji hao wametoa wito kwa maafisa wa usalama katika eneo hilo kutuliza mzozo huo. Na tukiangalia taarifa nyingine kwamba serikali ya kaunti ya Baringo imetoa makataa ya miezi 5 kwa makandarasi kukamilisha mradi wa ujenzi wa kituo cha kisasa cha kufanyia upasuaji kwenye hospitali matibabu maalum ya Kabarnet. Ujenzi wa kituo hicho kwa gharama ya shilingi milioni 173 umefadhiliwa na mpango wa ufadhili maendeleo wa Benki ya Dunia na ulipaswa kukamilika mwaka 2015.
This week on Zurura, we visit a tribe rich in heritage and culture. Travel to one of Africa's largest markets.
I love the variety.
And take you through winding rapids. And of course, that's all coming right up on Zurura. Find your adventure.
Na mkumradhi kwa hitilafu hiyo ya mitambo. Karibu tusonge mbele. Sasa ni kwamba gavana wa kaunti ya Uasin Gishu Jackson Mandago ameitaka Wizara ya Usalama wa Kitaifa kuhakikisha vijana wanapata vitambulisho vya kitaifa ili kuwawezesha kutafuta ajira. Mandago amesema ilikuwa makosa kwa serikali kuahirisha mpango kutoa vitambulisho vya kitaifa kwa wanafunzi wa shule za upili pindi wanapofikisha umri wa miaka 18 wakiwa bado shuleni.
Akiongea katika kaunti ndogo ya Soi, Gavana Mandago alisema vijana wengi wako tayari kujitafutia tija maishani, lakini hawana stakabadhi muhimu kama vile vitambulisho vya kitaifa, leseni za udereva na hata pasipoti. Mandago aligusia mradi wa serikali yake wa kuwatafutia vijana ajira nchini Finland, lakini vijana wengi hawana vitambulisho vya kitaifa.
Maafisa wa afya wameelezea wasiwasi kutokana na ongezeko la idadi ya wanawake wajawazito walioambukizwa virusi vya COVID-19 katika miezi ya hivi punde katika kaunti ndogo ya Naivasha. Hayo yanajiri wakati hospitali ndogo ya Naivasha inayowahudumia wakazi wa kaunti jirani za Nyandarua, Kiambu na Narok ikishuhudia uhaba wa chanjo dhidi ya ugonjwa wa COVID-19 katika juma moja lililopita. Kwa sasa hospitali ya kaunti ndogo ya Naivasha ina wanawake 4 wanaosubiri kujifungua ambao wamethibitishwa kuwa na ugonjwa wa COVID-19, huku mmoja wa wanawake hao akipoteza mwanae aliyezaliwa kabla ya muda wake. Kwa mujibu wa msimamizi mkuu wa hospitali hiyo Angeline Ithondeka, wimbi la 4 la COVID-19 humu nchini limekuwa hatari zaidi, huku idadi ya wanawake walioambukizwa virusi hivyo ikiongezeka, wengi wao wakihitaji hewa ya oksijeni.
COVID-19 and unfortunately we lost that baby. So we also had bad outcomes in 2 moms. We lost one mom who had COVID-19, and that was before she had delivered. So in this new season, we're also finding that also women are getting more equally affected. And previously it was mostly the people over 60 and also mostly male. But this time we are finding that even pregnant women and younger women are also getting severe COVID-19 disease.
Na sasa tuelekee kule Tana River ambako wakazi wa eneo la Hola kaunti ya Tana River wamewataka wabunge kupitisha hoja ya mbunge wa Galole Said Heribae ya kuwatengea wakazi wa Hola ardhi ya ekari 2000 ya halmashauri ya ustawi wa kilimo cha unyinyiziaji mashamba maji huko Hola.
Wakazi hao pamoja na viongozi wao wakiwemo Seneta Juma Wario, mwakilishi wa kina mama Rema Hassan na mbunge wa Garsen Ali Ashaka waliitaka kamati ya mazingira kumakinikia swala hilo ili kuwezesha wakazi hao kupata ardhi. Walisema kuwa ardhi hiyo ya ekari 2000 itagawiwa wakazi wapate hatimiliki na kuwezesha mji wa Hoka kustawi.
Mimi nataka katika hiyo petition iwekwe mji ambayo hiyo mahali haitapandwa pamba wala mahindi, lakini hizo miji ziwe recognized, kwa sababu irrigation bila binadamu sio irrigation.
Kuna miradi miwili ya unyunyizaji mashamba maji katika kaunti ya Tana River, ikiwemo mradi wa Bura ambao umetengewa ardhi ya takriban ekari 25,000 na mradi wa Hola ambao una ekari 16,000 za ardhi, lakini wakazi wanasema miradi hiyo haijatumika kikamilifu.
Mara nyingi vijiji vyetu huko pande ya Mtoni vina erode sana na hakuna mahali pa kwenda, kwa sababu wakati unapopatwa na mafuriko unatakana uhamie mahali ambapo pako juu.
Kamati ya bunge la kitaifa kuhusu mazingira ikiongozwa na mwenyekiti wake Kareke Mbiuki imesema imepokea hoja wakazi hao na kuahidi kukutana na waziri wa ardhi na maafisa wakuu husika kuangazia swala hilo.
Tutakuwa na kikao Nairobi na mjumbe wenu, kwa sababu bando bie ni member wa komiti yetu. Tutaita PS mwenyewe na CS cabinet secretary. Tutaita cabinet secretary wa maneno ya mashamba Mheshimiwa Farida Kalonei. Tutaita National Land Commission nao wakuja tuambie kupitia kwa hii petition maoni yao iko namna gani.
Serikali ya taifa inapanga kujenga kituo kipya cha polisi katika kijiji cha Gatongora huko Ruiru katika kaunti ya Kiambu katika harakati za kukabiliana na visa vya ukosefu wa usalama katika eneo hilo. Kituo hicho cha polisi cha Gatongora kinatarajiwa kupeleka huduma za polisi katika kijiji hicho ambacho kimekuwa kikiathirika pakubwa na visa vya mauaji, uporaji, wizi wa mifugo na ujambazi.
Wakazi wa kijiji cha Gatongora huku Ruiru katika kaunti ya Kiambu wamelalamikia ukosefu wa usalama katika eneo hilo, huku visa vya watu kuuawa na magenge ya uhalifu vikiripotiwa kuongezeka.
Tumekuwa na uvutaji bangi, walagai wanauzia watoto wetu bangi hata kwa mashule. Walagai wanaendelea hata kuuza hizi dawa za kulevya kwa mashule.
Wakazi hao wamesema kuwa tangu kuzuka kwa maradhi ya COVID-19 nchini, watu 7 kutoka kijiji kimoja wameuawa na wahalifu.
hapa kuna kuwa na mauaji ya watu wa motorbike hapa. Kazi hauwezi fanya jioni, unasumbuliwa na wakora hapa. Lakini naona venye station imejengwa hapo, tutakuwa tumenufaika na hii station sababu bado itakuwa inatusaidia na mambo ya security.
Watu wanauawa sana sana, watu wa pikipiki wanauawa na njia ya unyama. Unaona?
Mbunge wa eneo hilo Simon King'ara aliwaambia wanahabari mradi huo utatekelezwa kwa awamu, huku wakinuia kuleta usimamizi na huduma za serikali karibu na wananchi na kuimarisha usalama.
Mradi wa kwanza ni shukuru serikali kwa sababu wametupatia ruhusa ya kujenga police station. It is gazetted police station hapa Gatongora police station, na vile vile wametupatia gari kwa standby. Tukimaliza mjengo tu mambo itaanza. Askari wote tumepewa, na tukaonelea vile iko karibu na ofisi ya chief, tutajengea chief hapa kando. Tunataka kujenga hii police station, tutajenga ofisi ya chief na tutatengeneza social hall pale, na tunabakisha sehemu kidogo ya ile tunaweza tumia kama kujenga eneo la matibabu.
Mbunge huyo amesema kuwa visa vinavyozidi kuongezeka vya utovu wa usalama vinatokana na kuongezeka kwa idadi ya watu, hali ambayo inasababisha kiwango cha juu cha ukosefu wa ajira hasa miongoni mwa vijana, swala ambalo linawafanya kwanza kutumia mihadarati. Nisimano Koth, Kurunzi Mashinani.
Sasa tuelekee Baringo. Serikali ya kaunti ya Baringo imetoa makataa ya miezi 5 kwa mkandarasi kukamilisha mradi wa ujenzi wa kituo cha kisasa cha kufanyia upasuaji kwenye hospitali ya matibabu maalum ya Kabarnet. Ujenzi wa kituo hicho cha gharama ya shilingi milioni 173 unafadhiliwa na mpango wa kufadhili maendeleo wa Benki ya Dunia na ulipaswa kukamilika mwaka 2015.
Serikali ya kaunti ya Baringo imesema kuwa kucheleweshwa kwa mradi huo kumetokana na kugeuzwa kwa ramani ya ujenzi, na sasa mkandarasi husika amepewa muda hadi mwezi Februari mwaka ujao kumaliza mradi huo ulioanza kutekelezwa mwaka 2015.
First initial design haikuwa na provision ya theater and most of other facilities. The theater, the ICU and a few other facilities. Lakini wakati waliporudi kwa drawing board na wakajadiliana, wakaona kuna umuhimu wa kuwa na operation theater katika hii block. So hiyo sasa ikawa ni a different design mpaka irudiwe, alafu ndo mabadiliko hizo zirekebishwe katika plan.
Waziri wa afya katika kaunti hiyo Daktari Richard Rotich amesema mradi huu ambao ujenzi wake umefikia 40% utapunguza msongamano wa wagonjwa katika hospitali kuu ya Kabarnet.
Zile challenges ambayo tulikuwa tumepata hapo mbeleni tulitatua, na sasa project sasa inaanza kuendelea. Contractor alikuwa amepatiwa kumaliza hii mradi by February next year 2022.
Ramani hiyo mpya inahusisha ujenzi wa vyumba 5 zaidi, kukiwemo chumba cha wagonjwa mahututi, chumba cha upasuaji afisi, kituo cha kutibu maradhi ya figo na vyumba vya mapumziko kwa wagonjwa. Kaunti ya Baringo pia imeanza kuajiri maafisa zaidi watakao hudumu kwenye vyumba hivyo pindi mradi huo utakapokamilika.
Naam, kufikia hapo sina la ziada ila kutia kikomo taarifa hizi za Kurunzi Mashinani Alhamisi hii ya leo. Taarifa zaidi utazipata hapo kesho. Mimi ni Suleiman Yeri na mwenzangu wa ishara ni Lensa Odingo. Siende mbali, katika dakika chache zijazo nitakuwa nakaa naye wakili Gerald Kiti kuweza kufahamu vipi ikiwa wewe umetalikiana na mumeo unaweza kupata pesa ngapi, ama unaenda kuangalia vipi watoto wako, mali inaganywa vipi. Wengi wanakuwa siku hizi kufikia mahali ya kutoana uhai, wengine wakipelekana katika hali ambazo hazieleweki, wengine hata wakipata wenda wazimu. Lakini sheria inasema nini? Tutakuwa tunafahamu hapa kwenye kipindi hiki. Usiende mbali, tupate pumziko fupi.
tried to rape me. He is my father's enemy.
Over my dead body.
Ambaye amevaa hijabu huheshimiwa na huepuka vitimbi ambavyo wanafanyiwa wanawake wasiokuwa na stara.
Pia hakuna awezaye kumkabili kwa maneno ambayo kwamba ni machafu labda au maudhi, kwani anafahamu wazi kwamba mwanamke huyo ameshikamana na dini yake na vile vile anaheshimu utu wake. Oh Muhammad, peace and blessings on you every day. Alayka sallallahu, oh Muhammad.
This week on Zurura, we visit a tribe rich in heritage and culture. Travel to one of Africa's largest markets.
I love the variety.
And take you through winding rapids. And of course, that's all coming right up on Zurura. Find your adventure.
Alipochukua hatamu za uongozi, Rais Kenyatta alitoa kauli ya kupigana na ufisadi.
The last few months have seen a new intensity in the fight against corruption in Kenya. And we have made it very clear that corruption cannot and will not be tolerated. And the reasons could not be clearer. Corruption directly threatens Kenya's future.
Grabbers wamekaa ni kama ni wao watakuwa wa mwisho kuambiwa dunia fugeni murago dunia, tunaelekea pahali pengine. Hatuwezi kaa namna hiyo. Tunataka waguzwe hao, tuwagushe yote mpaka chini ili mtu ajue ufisadi ni uchungu na ufisadi kukula mali ya wananchi ni dhambi.
Grabbing ambayo inafanywa hata wale wanapiga kelele, wakati alikuwa na grab angepiga kelele, lakini vizazi zijazo zitakuwa